There are 7.5 billion people in this world, driving over 1.5 billion vehicles. 363 million of those vehicles are commercial. These vehicles are transporting people, goods, and services that all do their part to keep the world in motion. From the most populous of places on Earth to the most remote places only accessible during the right conditions. It is not often that we realize how much everyone and everything is constantly in motion until it stops. When it stops, that is where we come in. To grab, pull, push, winch, hoist, jump, unstick, unlock, or just plain maneuver you out of the mess you found yourself in. Some would call us drivers, operators, first responders, or essential workers. But I like to think of us as heroes from the ditch.
We currently find ourselves midway through a series about WreckMaster's Scene Discipline. You'll recall that SCENE is an acronym that represents a systematic approach to managing towing and recovery incidents that range from the simple winch out or tow to even the most complex recoveries. We began with the letter S. It reminds us to conduct a survey of the incident. And during the survey, we collect information. We observe the casualty and its environment. We interact with the client and other stakeholders at the scene. And we get the big picture of what has happened in order to create a plan through which we accomplish our mission. Next is C for calculate. In this step, we take the findings from the survey and make mathematical calculations to determine how much resistance needs to be overcome to place the casualty into motion. Overcoming resistance means forces are placed on our trucks and rigging. And equipped with the results of our calculations, we can install the appropriate size and grade of rigging and prevent overloading during the recovery or towing process. Now we come to the first E in the word scene. We've arrived at the stage in the discipline where we explain to an audience what we've already done and what comes next. As much as I enjoy this part myself, it cannot be ignored that the act of explaining can be uncomfortable, embarrassing, and even excruciating for others. Becoming an expert at explain takes some practice. If speaking to others about your towing or recovery plan is painful, then I encourage you to get to work right away and use the rest of our conversation today as a guide to help you prepare for this endeavor. When you utilize the explain step of the discipline, you'll earn the respect of your clients, peers, and other stakeholders by demonstrating your ability to clearly share the plan that's been formulated in your mind, which when enacted, results in a job well done. You'll be giving yourself another opportunity to identify weaknesses in the plan that may have been overlooked. There have been many times that I've stated my plan to someone else only to hear myself saying something that wouldn't work. See, as the plan makes its way from my mouth, I hear it and assess it in a different way. This gives me a chance to make some adjustments to it that will prevent complications or even failure. Explaining the plan gives others an opportunity to provide feedback, ask questions, and consider their roles in achieving success. The explain step of the discipline may have to be done more than once at a given incident, and its style or its delivery adjusted depending on the audience. There might be a tailgate meeting for the towing and recovery team members. That's where they get their marching orders and state back their individual roles and responsibilities. There may be another version for when the client is addressed. In this conversation, you address their specific concerns and needs. In the case where you're deployed with fire and rescue first responders to perform a critical lift to free an entrapped occupant of a collision, explain can look much different. In that instance, a rapid safety briefing demands with urgency that you have command of your knowledge, skills, and experience to effective life-saving action when every second counts. The art of effective communication is one that must be refined, honed, and polished until it is an effective tool through which you can achieve success and earn respect. The various audiences of a scene discipline explanation will challenge the passionate expert as he or she identifies what those around them need in order to be communicated with effectively. The first thing your audience needs is confidence in you. So whether you're sitting in the comfort of your carrier, explaining the steps of loading and securing a disabled passenger car to its owner, or you're standing face to face with a police officer among the wreckage of a multi-vehicle pileup explaining your plan to quickly clear the road and restore traffic flow, the confidence behind your words, steeped in the experiences and successes of the past, will infuse confidence in the mind of whom you are addressing. Before you can expect to receive respect and confidence from others, you must first have confidence in yourself. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. That's number 5 among Stephen Covey's list of 7 habits of highly effective people. It is a mantra which positions the towing and recovery operator in an environment he may not be accustomed to working from. Many operators in our field lack confidence in themselves because of a lack of understanding about the job itself. Frankly, they've never been properly trained how to do their jobs. That lack of confidence may be visible to others, especially when trying to put words to the why behind their actions. I'd love to conduct a survey that asks every towing and recovery operator in the world how much training they received prior to being permitted to go out on their own. In these, my early years as an instructor for WreckMaster, a lot of my students have been in the industry for years, but their encounter with me is their first encounter with training. They may, through their own self-study course of OJT, have figured out how to get it done, but most lack the knowledge and theory to effectively communicate a towing or recovery plan to others in a way that fosters confidence in their abilities. To express to someone your intentions for recovering their stuck automobile, you must feel confident in your own abilities to achieve success. To share with credibility your plan for uprighting an overturned tractor and trailer, you had better be versed in the terminology of quick clearance and incident management. When employing a winching method to free a mired excavator, you should be at ease with verbalizing the factors of resistance and the methodology for calculating mechanical advantage and line load. I firmly believe that knowledge and training plus experience equals competency and confidence. It is through training that we first gain verifiable and trustworthy knowledge. Experience provides the opportunities to test and prove what we've retained from our teaching. The results of our experiences can be confidence gained. A thorough understanding of what it takes to achieve tactical success and the why this works and that doesn't type of reasoning gives you, the expert operator, the premise on which you can be understood by your client, your fellow team members, and other stakeholders at your towing and recovery incident scene. Their confidence in your explanation of what is yet to come lays the foundation for respect that is yours to be earned. Seek training from a reliable and reputable source like WreckMaster to begin building that foundation today. Do you recall the golden rule? Since the first time you pulled your little sister's pigtails, threw a toy at your brother, or talked back to your teacher, you were taught to treat others the way you want to be treated. Am I right? Of course I am. This millennia-old aphorism assumes that everyone else has had the same life experiences, has developed the same tastes and expectations that you have, and therefore will be happy, satisfied, or content to interact with you as you would interact with yourself. You are unknowingly making an impossible demand of another when you expect them to rise to your level of training and experience and comprehend the prophetic account of the plan you're about to enact. Most of us find it easy to relate to our peers in conversation about the challenges that we face in the ditch of towing and recovery. We speak freely amongst ourselves about loading the latest model of sports car on our carriers. We talk at length about the last tough winch out and how deep the ruts were once we got the casualty to the road. We can go on and on for hours, sharing pictures of the trucks that would still be turned over down an embankment, but for our valiant actions. This freedom comes from the plausible assumption that you know what I know, and I know what you know. There exists between us an understanding that we have common experiences and similar successes and failures. This helps you and I communicate more effectively with each other than with the client or the cop. No disrespect intended toward our brothers and sisters in blue, but sometimes we're a little intimidated and under stress to perform when your authority and our responsibilities intersect. The towing and recovery expert must recognize that the explain element of the scene discipline is most often directed toward another human being whose expertise isn't in safe loading practices, resistance calculations, working load limits of rigging, and assessment of angles and their implications for the recovery environment. For that reason, I would like to share with you the Platinum Rule. Tony Alessandra's 2018 book titled just that, The Platinum Rule, asserts that effective communicators and leaders treat others the way they want to be treated. David Kirpin, in his book The Art of People, uses an analogy of fishing to support the Platinum Rule. So Kirpin admits that he likes strawberries and cream, but his quarry prefers worms. When attempting to lure fish to his hook, although he enjoys the sweetness of the red berries, the fish will have little interest if that's what's dangling at the end of his line. The metaphor is made complete when you and I understand that to be an effective communicator and earn the respect and confidence of others, we must quickly identify what words, manners, and styles best help our audience understand what is about to transpire. The term empathy could be used broadly to suggest how the towing and recovery expert should interact with their audience, but it can fall short of what is truly needed in all circumstances. So I'll describe a few instances where what the fish may be interested in is part of the spoken plan. In these cases, Kirpin's fish may be a motor club member, a law enforcement officer, or possibly a potential client. We know that the cruise loop recovery method is a tried and true recovery tactic for overcoming the resistance created by a unibody car that lacks sufficient traction or propulsion to free itself from its environment. Any operator who's attended a WreckMaster Level 2-3 course has been taught not only how to utilize the cruise loop, but why it works. You can have countless recoveries under your belt with the cruise loop, have been an aficionado of the method, and still lack the perspective of the car's owner, who is standing a safe distance away, watching you place your rigging inside their car, and not outside, where they may have expected it to go. Let's take a step back in time to the point right after you've made your introduction to the client, surveyed the casualty, completed a calculation, and now you're ready to explain to them what is about to transpire. To gain their trust, confidence, and ultimately respect, demonstrate to them that you have their best interests in mind and value their automobile as much as they do. This can be achieved by taking your cruise loop with you when you explain to them your recovery plan. You will have it rolled neatly, and it will be clean, and its rating tag will be visible. A brief explanation of your calculations should be conveyed, followed by your assertion that the rigging you'll be employing has been designed and manufactured for this specific type of recovery. It will be evident that you take pride in your rigging and care for it, so they won't have any fear that it will damage their car or leave grease stains on their seats. Address them as if you are giving them a summary of how to use the tool themselves, assuring them along the way that you care about their concerns and are confident that your chosen tactic will be effective and elicit a positive outcome. Your candor, professionalism, and knowledge will be displayed through your explanation and validated when acted upon. Let's change our target audience. Suppose you've arrived at the scene of a commercial motor vehicle that is stalled in a lane of traffic on a busy highway. Law enforcement is standing by and eagerly anticipating the removal of the tractor and trailer. You're expected to tow it away quickly so the congestion that it created can be alleviated. Your survey reveals that the Volvo tractor is equipped with an I-shift transmission, and it is locked in drive. The informed operator knows that the drive shaft must be disconnected or the axles pulled before moving it, or catastrophic damage to its gear train can occur. The police officer expects his roadway to be opened immediately. You, knowing this, move quickly to the explain part of the discipline and without wasting time, explain to the officer that clearance of the roadway is going to take a few extra minutes because of the specific type of equipment that you must deal with. Add in that you are fully equipped to quickly make the casualty ready to tow and that you are also invested in getting traffic flowing as quickly as safely possible. This brief explanation, ahead of laying underneath the truck, invisible to the officer, serves as a buffer between his potential frustration and your due diligence to prevent damage to the casualty you've been tasked with moving. This case, along with the previous, gives the stakeholder the information on the front end to know what to expect as you proceed with the execution of your duties. There are times when the explain phase of the discipline happens in the office, away from and prior to responding to the call for service. We learned 2 episodes back that the survey begins when the call is received by a dispatcher or call taker. Let's suppose that a request has been made to lift a loaded 40-foot shipping container off of a flatbed trailer. The call taker pushes the request up the chain of command to you, the heavy-duty towing manager. You enter the conversation knowing that your training indicates that it's rarely possible to stay within the margin of safety for this type of job using only one wrecker. Applying the platinum rule, listen for clues about how the customer wants the job done and how they want to be treated. If they push back on your company's policy or procedure, which calls for these types of loads to be lifted with 2 wreckers, be prepared to understand their point of view, but not disregard your own best practices. Take advantage of this opportunity to share your knowledge with them about rigging and load angle factors in a way that they can understand. I hope that you're successful in earning their business, but I also know that sometimes a stubborn client who is dead set on not paying for the necessary resources is one who is better left to their own devices. As difficult as it may be to accept, if you've done a thorough job relating to your audience in a way they can understand and appreciate, but still don't achieve acceptance, take the opportunity to be satisfied with not having to go against your training and be proud of the fact that you are confident in your decision to act in the best interest of yourself, your company, and even though they may not value it in the moment, your client. The explain phase of the scene discipline can be a challenge. We're not used to public speaking, even if it is just on the side of the road to a single client. We're a very self-reliant bunch of people, us in the tow business. And many times, it's my way or the highway is the method used to convey our intentions. Well, that isn't acceptable if we wish to avert confrontation. Nobody wakes up in the morning wishing to need a towing and recovery expert to overcome some challenge they are going to face. A wrecker or rollback may be a necessary tool in some crises, but one that is rarely desired at the outset of one's day. With that being the case, confrontation, is often just a single misspoken word away. This is where an understanding of the ego states of parent, child, and adult come into play. Eric Berne was a psychiatrist who developed the theory of transactional analysis. It's a study of human behavior related to the state of mind or state of being a person finds themselves in during the course of a dialogue or an argument. These states of mind are identified as ego states and are further defined by the types we can readily associate with parent, adult, and child. Recently, my beautiful wife and I shared a restaurant dining room with a mother and her child. The youngster was adamant about having cake before his meal. The mother, stern and reciprocally insistent, required that he eat his vegetables first. I had some sympathy for him, but having been there just a few years ago, I couldn't muster the empathy to place myself in her position. No, not for 1 second. The child continued to argue and demand that his conditions to the order of the meal be met. The parent, well, she argued back, citing the rules of healthy nutrition and embellishing her memories of how she never got cake before the main course. The argument continued until one of them gave in. I'll tell you later who it was. The theory of transactional analysis states that an argument will persist until one or more parties enter an adult ego state. You may find yourself explaining a course of action to a client who's operating in the child ego state and insist that they get their way because they watched one too many episodes of Highway Through Hell and consider themselves an expert. Conversely, you may be faced with an adversarial authority who demands results as specified by the rules of a contract and who gives little credence to the nuance of the situation. Both ego states want to get their way, the child through selfish demands and the parent by order of rules and traditions. The effective communicator and problem solver will relate their intentions and courses of action by engaging the adult ego state. This is a frame of mind that is tempered with patience, humility, and expansive knowledge. It doesn't embellish or stretch the truth. It is one that addresses the needs and concerns of all interested parties, but also knows its boundaries. It can effectively change the temper and tenor of a conversation by addressing other parties with respect and consideration of their needs. It is indeed a challenge, but one that's worth the effort. Consider using calming statements early on in the interaction with your customer, such as, "Thank you for your patience. I know this is a difficult situation, and I arrived as quickly as possible." Or, "I've had an opportunity to conduct a survey of the incident, and a plan is underway to mitigate the situation as safely and quickly as possible." And always, please know that I'm here to help and would be happy to offer an explanation to any questions or concerns that you may have. These types of statements gently but positively assert your control over the conversation. You appear as the expert, one who is communicating as an adult, ready to proceed in a disciplined approach to overcoming a challenging situation. The first E in the scene discipline is critical to the success of the remaining elements. Relying on your training to first understand what you're explaining to others is the foundation. Recognizing the needs of others, even if they like worms more than they like strawberries and cream, will help you relate with them and tailor the conversation in a way they can understand. Finally, focusing all of your effort to interact as an adult, not a regimented parent or greedy child, will help you avoid or alleviate confrontation. These ideas and strategies set the stage for executing a task that you've trained for, are highly knowledgeable about, and will ultimately lead to you receiving the respect which you deserve. Oh, and if you're still wondering if the kid got his cake, nope. I ordered the whole thing and took it home for my kids. Who needs vegetables anyway? For WreckMaster, I'm Casey Burrows. See you in the ditch.